abundance and compassion and cooperation as normal. Like, we had to go against the cultural stream, but Jacques Fresco's whole thing is, it's an interaction between, your relationships sort of determine what you are. Like if you're abused as a child, or which, frankly, the more that I've studied education, there's no way to grow up. Even we were all traumatized the shit out of when we were growing up, even if we had incredibly loving parents, just because our culture didn't know how to raise a human being for the past 2,000 years. Yeah. So we had to, we had that abuse, and then we had to develop out of it, because it's like, oh no, I'm threatened, so now I'm going to revert to this survival mode. So if we can systematically remove most of those traumas as we grow up, then you don't have to... I view consciousness development more in the lines of healing yourself from traumas that you had growing up. So if we realize this and can rapidly implement holistic education systems and get all new parents on board with it really quick, get it out of the whole... I need to do a video on education, I guess, because it bleeds into that. But basically, there's ways to remove trauma so that people are starting at what integral theory I think would call green.
Sure.
And then they would move from there into the natural hierarchies of yellow and frankly beyond. But yeah, this interim phase, I think, is where this trialectical thing is needed, because it might take a whole generation for that, and we need sort of a system. But I don't think I really think that things could shift quickly to where you graduate high school and you're at what Integral would call green.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you, Kurt. I think that by altering the culture, you're altering your consciousness in a big way. But that's kind of the point in some sense, I think, is that, the revaluing of subjectivity and intersubjectivity, or your own I space and the we space, is really what needs, that's a big part of what needs to be revalued. And in turn, that revaluing, I think, can allow one to be okay, well, we can leave room for the scientific principle. We don't have to be worried about it, people manipulating it in such ways that would do devastating harm to us in that sense, because by feeling that your leadership is such that they're coming from a place of morality, and by leadership I mean kind of you and me and everybody that's engaged in the process of moving the ball forward,
right.
Then you can feel more open and more relaxed as a moral individual and a subject, as a thinking, feeling being.
So it's almost like the safer we make society, or the less traumatic it is, the more, or the easier it is for people to be moral and loving, because that's kind of a vulnerable position.
Absolutely.
I do think that we learn something as beings from learning to do that in dangerous environments, but it obviously causes a lot of us to become kind of retarded too. So.
I know I have that. Oh, shit.
Oh yeah, so this is another thing I was talking about with my boss, and this is the other thing that I think is flawed about, say, our capitalistic system that I think the Trialectics discuss, which hopefully we'll get into, but you had that primer video, so maybe people watch that and know what the hell we're talking about. The main thing that I see as capitalism is the economic system is sort of like a game, right?
Yes.
The people that are the referees of the game are playing. Our politicians, our judges, our presidents are making all these rules about how we can play this economical game, but they're also in it. And so they put on ref jerseys and take them off because they also want success in mansions and in boats and all that stuff, and so they're corruptible. And it's almost like it would probably save us. Capitalism might be able to be fixed if every time we gave somebody an elected position, we just gave them a debit card and said, buy whatever the hell you want. It's all going to go on public record. And frankly, you can have that for the rest of your life so that you don't get, you're not even allowed to have a paying job for the rest of your life. Like, once you get elected, you get, I don't know, something like, let's make it really fair. You get $400,000 a year for the rest of your life if you get elected to a high office, right? And the debit card all goes onto the public record. Everyone can see what you're spending, and that's just the price you pay for wanting to become the referee. And then all of a sudden, these people are not corruptible with money because you can't give them money. They have everything that they want within reason. Actually, with $400,000 a year would be excessive reason, right? But it would probably save us all money because then all of a sudden they would be making decisions as referees and not as players.
Yes. Yeah.
So
no, that's great. That's great thinking. There's still the potential that enough is never enough. But yeah, no.
No, we make it so that like when you get elected, you're out. You're out of the game. Like, that's just because you wanted to become a referee, now you're a referee, you can't play. So, you can't make any more or any less money than this ridiculous sum that we're going to pay you anyway, of like, 6 figures something. Like, I feel like that would save us probably tons of money if we did that for every single congressman. And just said, here you go, and that's your max spending limit, and everything you buy, public record.
Yeah, and it's not just the money, right? Like it's the fallout of the actions that people do to get the money, right?
Right.
To allow certain really not healthy corporations doing really not healthy things for extra cash
Right.
and extra power. So
I guess we would have to get that extra cash out of the. It'd almost have to be like also if you wanted to run, there would have to be some sort of vetting process that maybe didn't depend on money. And then once you did run, there was no fundraising involved, I guess. There would only be, I don't know. I have no idea how to fix that part, but. Anyway, so Trialectics, let's go from like the bottom or the top or whatever.
Yeah, so we started at the bottom and I totally got sidetracked, sorry about that. So the resource level is essentially, one of the methods we're looking at is using kind of an Austrian-based economy, where you don't have sort of like a Federal Reserve system, printing money at debt to the people. It's essentially either like what you might call a legislative body that's in control of ensuring that there's no real inflation to the dollar, and so that $1 sort of always stays $1. And we can do that with computers and so forth in such a way that, the banking system sort of become mostly obsolete now, where we have to hold, all the sort of cash.
Would that system work as like you've got these algorithms that are tracking how much of a resource, how much wealth the society actually has, and then either printing or subtracting money as needed to keep the value equal with the resources, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There would be some sort of deep relationship between what the available resources are and, sort of the people and their needs, and you have sort of a max and minimum possibility. There still has to be this element of achievement, I think, within the system, and that's a problem with. Maybe you might even argue with the resource-based economy, but probably you can get around that in some ways. But like this sense that you can achieve more, it kind of maintains that element of the kind of traditional finances that we see now in a capitalist system. So, but it's augmented by the other levels, I hope, so that if you do a really good job as sort of a scientist, or if you're whatever employment you're doing, really, then you get cash in hand from it. Now, again, that cash is directly tied to the amount of resources within limits. So it's not exactly resource-based economy. There's some subtle adjustments taking place probably constantly through our computing systems and so forth, and what we know we have resources of. But it's trying to keep that balance as best as possible, right?
Right. And when we say resource economy, we're basically talking sort of something similar to the materialistic economy that we have now, not the Venus Project idea of resource-based. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Like Austrian economics, I haven't researched it that deeply, but from those that I believe in the economic world that have, it seems like a much more reasonable approach than sort of the Keynesian and so forth takes on economics.
They're doing really well over there, I think, right? As far as, like, I think Germany's implemented a new thing. That
I haven't heard. Have they?
I don't know if they went so far as to, like, just get rid of their central bank or what, but Germany's been doing incredibly well from some changes that they did. They kind of rooted out a lot of corruption in one way or another. I forget what avenue they took, but so the base level of Trialectics is using some sort of algorithm or logic to make sure that the currency is actually relating to the wealth available in the society.
Absolutely.
Instead of this, to prevent, say, crap like people putting computers closer to Wall Street, making micro trades and stuff like that.
Absolutely, the radical speculation we see on Wall Street, where you speculate of 100 years, not 100 years, but 10 years in advance, and what a company's going to be doing, and you're speculating on speculations that other speculators are making. It's just a gulag of speculation.
Right. So the base of Trialectics is just actually lashing the currency to wealth, maybe not a gold standard since that's inflexible, but logically printing or deprinting money.
Yes, yeah, and then this, we'll move on to the second level, and I hope that clarifies maybe how this can be better regulated. So the second level is what I've been calling heart shares, and it connects deeply to the idea that those people that you trust, you believe in as sort of moral agents, you give them these shares. Now that it works in the way that these individuals are always still participating in the resource-based economy, in the resource shares. They're always within that economy too. But if you believe in this individual as a good individual, then you're going to give them some heart shares. Like Dr. House, you probably he should make a lot of resource shares, but he probably wouldn't make very many heart shares. Maybe some witty ass individual would give him some heart shares too, but probably wouldn't do very well in the heart share system.
Okay, and so what sort of power does and this is basically like the heart shares come, everyone gets 100 of them a year, and then they can give them out as they see, or?
Yeah, so one way I was thinking is that, as young children, you might get a few of them to start, maybe, 10 or 20 to play around with, and just, give you a little bit of movement to do this. But then, yeah, after maybe 18, you get your full heart shares. And this is, obviously people grow and are more consciously developed than other people, but, at least I think on this standard, this is at least my going theory, that at maybe 18 or 21, you have a full level of heart shares to give out as you see fit.
What do these allow you to do really quick?
They're about legislation.
Okay.
So it's legislating the sorts of laws. If you are a specialist in a particular field, for example, like, a car mechanic or something, then you have a lot of heart shares,